so then there was this whole like back and forth because in email, like I didn't want to say like, all right, but you got to go naked, right? Like I didn't want to like there to be like this paper trail of me like telling some writer that they've got to take their clothes off to get a story. But then she said, you have to be naked to go to the show. And my husband and I are comfortable with that and we will do it. And I was like, okay. And so then the next question was like, well, what are we going to do for artwork? Because we're not doing photos.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Talking About Cars with Randy Cardoon, a podcast featuring Hot Rod Bob Beck. We are on the air because everybody has a car story. Isn't that true, Bob? I'm in our studio in Washington State. That there is Hot Rod Bob Beck back in his Two Tired Guys production studios near Port Hueneme, California. Always fun. This is her third appearance on the show. Currently a columnist for Car and Driver magazine. In fact, she is I want to get this right, the senior feature editor now at Car and Driver, which means not only does she get paid better, but she can buy all sorts of new cool cars for her and her husband's collection. And they're continuing to work on that. So,
and we'll talk about that too. Just because she's a senior doesn't mean she's old.
Right. No, yeah. I want to make sure that's yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not like a senior. It's not like she has a walker or anything like that. No. She's
her walker would be 400 horsepower.
Yeah, that would be true, and she'd do down the straightaway. It'd be So, all right, let's go for it. Here she is, ladies and gentlemen. You know her, you love her, and you're gonna have fun with her today. Here is Elana Scherr on the program. So this is, I believe, the third appearance of Elana on the show. I'm trying to remember. You joined us once in the famous radio station studio, and then let's see what else. I think you might have been on the radio station studio again, but we also talked to you about the whole driving through California in the
off-road
Bronco thing, the off-road.
Right. Oh, and we had her in the other studio in North Hollywood.
Oh, is that where it was? Okay.
Yeah.
We
had you at the studio in North Hollywood when we were doing the other show called Yes. And
so nice. We brought her back thrice. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And we've run into each other at all sorts of places.
And that's another thing.
At a bunch of car shows, and I believe we saw each other at Roland's Memorial. So we have definitely been in the same places.
And book signings when you wrote the books.
That's right.
And the thing is, you guys are both noted columnists in well-known, some well-known more than others, but certainly well-known car publications. You, Elana, are, of course, Car and Driver, and Bob, you are
Rodding USA.
See, Rodding USA. RODDING. That's right.
Different spectrums. I do the old cars, you do the new ones.
I like to sneak some old cars into the columns here and there, but Bob, somebody, a younger writer recently, just last week, asked me, how do you do a column? Like, how do you come up with a column every issue or whatever? And has anyone ever asked you that? What was your answer?
It's whatever comes to mind. I look at the top. In our case, we're specific to hot rods. So I think of something specific to hot rods that I noticed. One time, I remember looking at a picture of Tommy Ivo's T-Bucket and looked at the back tires. I go, oh, those are cheater slicks. Because at that point in time, they didn't have drag racing tires for cars like that. So a company back east came up with cheater slick, where they recapped existing tires with a flat surface like a racing slick, but they didn't have drag racing tires at the time, and then put a couple of grooves down it so it was legal on the street. Because they didn't think about, carrying tires. Where do you carry a tire in a T-Bucket? So they came up with what they called cheater slicks, where they were kind of like racing slicks. They were soft racing rubber, but they were street legal.
That's so early. Now all of those men and women who are racing the like drag and drive events are using that kind of tire technology, right?
Well, you've got street radials and racing radials that are DOT approved, but are made out of racing rubber. And they're radials, which they didn't have back then, They're fresh castings. They're not recaps. So it's a lot safer tire. But we're also looking at cars now on the street. You pull them off the showroom, and they're faster than race cars were back in the 50s and 60s. So you need the different tire technology. And the cheater slicks back in the day, that was the top technology for the 50s and early 60s.
By the way, congratulations. I saw you won a trophy from the LA Press Club in Southern California. Congratulations. Very good.
Yeah, that was for a really fun story that Car and Driver did last fall, or I guess the beginning of this year, where I went to Washington, D.C. to try and figure out this carpooling grassroots group that they do there called slugging that they don't really do anywhere else in America. And it was really fun and challenging, and I was really happy with the response from it. So you to the LA Press Club for that.
That's
Yeah.
good. I mean, hey, that's a heck of an achievement. Getting recognized from that for something that's not normal. Normally the press club goes after newspaper and such, and here you are in a magazine and that's great.
And a
Okay.
car magazine too.
Yeah, I mean that
I'd never heard of the LA Press Club doing that, where they actually get things from people in the car journalism industry and judging that. I've never heard that before, so that's great.
Well, thank you guys.
That's very
But
cool.
now we talk about the journalism. A while back, you wrote a book on a very famous drag racer, and
Yes.
that had to be an experience.
That was amazing. Yeah, it was sort of, I guess it was 2020, so it was right in the beginning of COVID. And I worked with Don Prudhomme on his autobiography, and we actually started it quite a bit before that. I think it took about a year and a half. And it was actually really a delightful experience. I'd been friends with Prudhomme. It feels like bragging to say that, but we had started working together even before Hot Rod, because he had these big ramp trucks, and then my husband and I bought a big ramp truck that used to be Dick Landy's. I think I spoke to you guys about it before, a long time ago. And so we've been very, very slowly restoring that massive ramp truck, and the only person, like seriously, the only person on earth who understands how big a project it is Don Prudhomme, because he restored the Hot Wheels Snake and Mongoose trucks a few years before we found the Landy truck. So he was very excited about it, both because he likes the trucks and also because he and Dick Landy were very good friends. They were all Valley guys in the racing industry. And so Snake and I sort of became friends before I was even really working in magazines. And then obviously when I was at Hot Rod, I had a lot of chances to interview him and talk to him about different stories. And we just always had such a nice time together that when he was ready to do the book, he asked if I would be willing to be the writer on it. And so it was a big honor. It was a big responsibility, but we actually had a really good time.
And if those people out there have seen Elana be on our show before, she also worked at Roadkill for a while. And I'm curious, when we were out at that Mopar show, I don't know if you saw it, but one of the Roadkill guys brought the what did they call it? The off-road Challenger.
Off-road Challenger. Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because it just came up recently. Somebody tagged me in an Instagram post of this. For those who are unfamiliar with this vehicle, it is a really grubby Challenger. I don't even remember what year it is, 71 maybe, but it's just sort of a Mad Max looking blacked out car. It has like big kind of off-road tires. I don't even think it has glass in all of the windows. It has like the yellow off-road lights on it, the smiley face lights. And so somebody tagged me and was like, do you happen to know who owns this? And I was like, you know what? Actually, I think I do. And so I wasn't aware that the Roadkill guys had sold it, but they sold it to one of their crew guys. So I believe his name is Mason.
Right. And he explained to me at the time, and we had him on a previous episode here, that how he got it is they did an internal auction of sorts, where they just said, okay, we're going to only open this to employees. And if anybody wants the car, throw in your hat and see, give us your best deal. And he ended up getting it, which prompts a question, knowing you used to work there. Did they ever do that when you were there? Did they ever say,
No.
hey, we're going to give away, or we're going to sell some vehicles or parts or something to only people who work here?
No, and if they had, I would have bought the Viper.
Okay.
But no, they didn't really. I mean, they didn't have so many vehicles when I was there. I was there in the beginning of the show, and so it's sort of they weren't at the point yet where they needed to kind of divest themselves of things. So it probably changed as they got more popular and started to have. I don't know. They probably had 50 cars if they had kept everything. So.
Wow.
Or if they hadn't destroyed a lot of them. But hey, even when they're destroyed, they can always bring them back. They always seem to.
Well,
So-
sometimes their repairs destroyed them.
Earlier this year, speaking of vehicles that look like that, one of the big stories around was this thing that McDonald's is doing that you did a column on called the Burger Cuda.
Yeah.
Sounds weird. The pictures look weird. What do you remember of that?
I always thought that they should have called it the Hamburguda, but nobody asked me.
They're lost.
I thought it was like an unexpected marketing hit from McDonald's. I don't know if they were aiming for video game kids who might recognize that car, or if they were aiming for people who had muscle car nostalgia. But yeah, they hired a very well-known hot rod builder, a muscle car builder in the Los Angeles area, and he did, I think, a really good job on it. It was sort of funny. It was like it looked pretty much like a Cuda at first, and then you like look closer, and it had like these special seats, and it had like a hamburger warmer in the console and stuff like that. It was cute.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The coloring is bright. But what struck me is they took an older car rather than something more current.
Yeah, I know. You would think that they would have maybe partnered with Dodge and done it in a new Challenger or something like that. But they didn't. They went for the old school one, and they did like I said, they did a nice job. The builder is Sean Smith, and he's done some really well-known high profile SEMA cars and things like that. So it's not like, they weren't casual about it, and it wasn't like a stunt car where they didn't, I think it was an actual running, driving 440 cars.
I'm thinking
That's
Burger Cuda, Filet-O Challenger. I don't know. I don't know which one would really work. I guess
Well,
Burger
Filet-O
Cuda.
fish you would have to do with a Cuda. Come on.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
that's exactly, yeah.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah. So
Maybe that would even go with an earlier Barracuda with a big glass window.
yeah. Oh, yeah. That'd be very early, like 64 to 66. Yeah.
Yeah,
That would have been interesting. See,
I'm getting hungry.
we're looking for our side jobs, Bob. I think we
Yeah.
got it. People have to come to us and come up with. We'll give you suggestions how to
Yeah.
promote things like this.
Marketing
I know,
ideas.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I'm
you're-
tired of
but
real
you're-
work.
But you're right. I think Stellantis is probably sitting there seeing this come out and going, hello, we could use some publicity here after
Yeah.
we killed the Charger and the
Challenger
Challenger
and the Chrysler 300 and
300 and yeah, all the other things that
Yeah.
are still going on. So
let's not make any cars anymore. No one's buying them anyway.
yes.
Well-
Gas versus electric.
Right.
The debate goes on.
And Elana, you got one of the coolest cars around. You've got that Jensen.
Oh, you're right. I do have
I
a Jensen.
love that Jensen.
Sometimes I forget I have a Jensen, and then someone's like, "Don't you have a Jensen?" And I'm like, "I do have a Jensen."
Yeah, and it's not the weak little Jensen Healy. This is a full-on big Jensen with the Mopar motor. It gets out of its own way.
I mean, I assume all of your listeners are familiar with Jensen, but just in case they aren't, Jensen was one of those car companies that in the 60s and 70s they called them hybrids. So we're on topic for
Okay.
modern conversation. They called them hybrids because it would be like a European body and chassis with an American powertrain. And there were a lot of them. I mean, maybe most famous would be Pantera, probably. But there was Grifo, which used a Chevy engine, and Sunbeam Tiger, isn't that a Ford?
Sunbeam Tiger is another one. Yeah.
And there was
Right.
there were some more esoteric ones, Monteverde. But Jensen was an English car company, kind of and they used Chrysler engines. So they used 383s and then they used 440s. And they built this car called the Interceptor, which was or is a just a lovely GT car. It has sort of a big back, a little bit like the Barracuda that you mentioned earlier, big back hatch window. Technically a 4-seater, a 2+2, but very much a 2-seater, leather interior, just like a long hood. They're very pretty. They kind of have a Aston Martin sort of elegant energy to them, but then they go like stink, because it's a Chrysler muscle car engine. And the one that I bought was great because it was owned previously by the Subaru PR guy. And so I was on a press trip, like I was on a work trip for Car and Driver, new Subarus. And somehow Jensen came up and he mentioned that he had one. And I said, I really want one if you're ever selling it. And about a year later, he sent me a note that was like, I think I'm going to sell it. And the reason that I love this car so much is that the owner before him did a stick shift swap on it. So this is a Richmond 6-speed behind that 440. And they did make a few 4-speed manual ones, but not very many. And I've never seen one here in the States. So to me, it's sort of the best of all possible worlds. It's like, it looks the part, it gets better gas mileage, and it's more fun to drive because it's got the stick in it. So.
Yeah, more fun to drive. And by, I guess, US standards, that would almost be a high-end luxury sports GT.
Yeah.
They weren't cheap when they were new. But,
no, not at all. In fact, I believe I read somewhere that the cost of a Jensen new was more than the cost of a house in England at the same time. It was more than $10,000 when they were brand new. I don't know what year that was or what property values in England were like at the time, but it sort of stuck in my head. And my husband Tom, who we've talked about before, is also very into cars, and he spent a lot of time on that car, going through the wiring and getting everything working, because I hate to fall into cliche. I really do, because I love the car so much. But
okay, come on.
But the English wiring, that
Lucas.
they made some choices. They made some choices there, and I don't believe they made the right choices, but it's all working great now. And I did write a column about it for Car and Driver a couple of issues back, which is online now. So if you do search my name and Jensen, that story should pop up for you, and you can get all of the details of the wiring.
And she has so many.
Is a beautiful car.
Thank you.
She has so many cool cars, though, that she could talk about grist for the mill, talk about somewhere you looking for story ideas. She also has a Opel GT, which came out, I believe, in the last edition of your last column that came out, where you were talking about the weather in Southern California. And ironically, for this podcast, you brought up how it's been raining more there than in Seattle. And somehow, I'm not sure about rain, but certainly snow a lot more than Seattle. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for reading all the columns, Randy.
See, by the way, aside here, there was a time we were talking with her on, I think the last time she was here, and she said, well, did you read this, da da da? And I went, oh, heck, I haven't yet. I haven't signed on yet. And she went, oh, you got to sign on. So being the good co-host, I signed on, and look what happened.
You sure did. Yeah. Thank you. And yeah, no, it rained so much. I mean, you guys know it rained so much this year. And all of a sudden I discovered that all of these cars that I own leak. It never occurred to me that they would, because it had never rained really on them before. So
actually, I live in Washington now, believe it or not. So there you go. That's why I kind of threw Seattle there into the mix. But
his driveway gets washed every day, whether he wants to or not.
Well, let's just say once every 3 days. But summer's here, and maybe it'll get down to once every 4. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, so did you discover any leaks when you moved to Washington and suddenly you were in the rain all the time?
Well, let's see. It depends on the car. I had a 69 Catalina that I have in getting upholstery right now. And then we went, oh, wait a minute. What's all this rust doing over here underneath now that we've taken out the seats and all the other stuff? And there was nothing there that basically indicated that until we pulled up the carpet and surprise. So yeah, I think we learned that. That and the fact that, have you ever been in a situation where you've torn out upholstery and you've seen the remnants of rodents in your car?
Have I ever not been in that situation when
Yeah.
I've torn out upholstery?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
didn't have to get the upholstery. I was changing the battery in my wife's Corvette the other day, and I pulled the battery out, and there's a little compartment underneath the battery for some unknown reason, and it was a nest. Now, I don't
Really?
know how long they've been there. There was nothing active, but the battery was new when we bought the car, so I can only assume that it's happened since, or it happened before. They didn't notice it, thinking it was just insulation packing. So that got all cleaned out now. But
Mhm.
it was like, oh, look at that. Oh, those aren't raisins. Wait a minute.
Oh, no.
Well, we
No.
found when I bought the car, and I bought it out of Montana, it had kind of a certain air to it. And I thought, well, it didn't
Air.
smell like anything really bad. It just smelled odd. And I had kind of chalked it up to the rather intriguing choice of kind of couch-like material on the seats. And I thought, okay, well, that's a little odd. Maybe that's just, it's time to change it anyway. And then when we pulled it apart, we found 1, 2, 3 skeletons. So yeah, I feel like I'm a mass rodent murderer just by buying the car. I don't know. I had
I mean,
nothing to do with it. I had nothing to do with it.
They've probably been dead for decades.
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
that works. Yeah,
absolutely. I
decades.
feel
Menage
guilt.
a trois underneath his seats.
Huh?
A menage a trois underneath your seats.
A
Okay. A
mousage.
mouse de trois, I
Mouse
guess.
de
But
trois, yeah.
Yes.
yeah, the surprise is when you tear apart a car, even a car that you think is solid, the things that you can find are just shocking. I mean, that could be a column all by itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will make sure I keep
Give me that idea.
subscribing to the show. No,
Or-
subscribing to your magazine. So when it
Yeah.
comes
Or
up,
you
I
could
can
use
go,
it, Randy. You could use that one for your next column.
well, actually, I kid you not. I had somebody, and for if we end up doing this, you probably have a good laugh at this. But as soon as I read that, and the Cosmos or my phone is listening to what I'm saying, because all of a sudden I get this email from some lady who is representing a car collector who has developed some sort of car cover that keeps the rodents
Oh,
out.
the weighted mouse cover. We've all
Yes.
got that email.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And I actually talked to her, and I thought that's a weird idea. And I had to check with my bosses and say, okay, if I did this story, would that constitute some sort of commercial advertising? And they said, well, no, as long as you do it a certain way. And I said, okay, that's fine. So she's still kind of waiting for my answer. I could.
Randy, I can't believe you're running a anti-mouse car cover grift.
You're gonna
Yeah,
get hate
well,
mail from Disney.
the things we do to get noticed, because after all, nowadays it seems everybody does have a car podcast. Although back when we started about, it's been 10 years now.
10
It
plus
didn't
years,
seem, yeah, people would actually say, oh, what's this? Oh, yeah, we'll
Well,
be on that show. So
we go back, and I started mine in 1990, before anyone was doing much of anything. And it was internet based back then.
yeah.
Do you guys find it's easier or harder now that everybody knows what a podcast is? Like Car and Driver just started a Car and Driver podcast. They're talking about new cars. And it's like, in some ways it's easy because now you call somebody and you say, do you want to be on our podcast? You don't have to explain what a podcast is, like the engineer from Lamborghini will be like, sure, I'll be happy to be on the podcast. Whereas before,
that aspect is easier. The other situation too now is it's more flooded. I mean, there are so many.
And if you want to get certain people, like maybe some celebs, because when we first started, we did a bunch of celebs.
Yeah.
Now suddenly it's like, oh, well, I just did this one, or I just did that one. And you don't really want to do, celebrities are great, car people are great, people on TV shows are great. But I think if they've done too many of them, you don't want to bring somebody, in my opinion, that's overexposed. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know because you always think, oh gosh, we've saturated the market, right? And then you find a new audience and they've never even heard of it. Right now, I'm sort of talking to a bunch of people about hit and miss engines because I posted a video of old, early 4-stroke hit and miss engines, and so many people have never seen that before in their lives. And, I mean, the technology that existed, more than 100 years ago. So you would think that everybody would have seen it at least once, but no, and they're fascinated by it. So, there's always someone new who hasn't seen
true.
it.
Well,
True.
the technology, we see the technology has changed, but as car enthusiasts as we are, we have some of that history in the background. The other thing too is the first time I came across a hit and miss was when I go to Pomona for the swap meet, and you got that whole section of the guys with their hit and miss motors, and they would come. The whole club would be there. They'd have 10 or 12 of these things at least sitting there running. They had huge flywheels, and that's how they start them. You watch the guy spin the flywheel to get it to fire and go boom, blah blah blah, boom, blah, and just kept running like that. And they were pumps. They were agricultural pumps, and those are the ones that I remember seeing. And I never knew what they were until I saw that whole display they had, and the club was there. And you're right, they're aging out, and that's an issue with cars too. We're seeing the enthusiasts, the hot rod enthusiasts,
Right.
kind of aging out uh, because the kids today didn't grow up with the cars we did, and they have very little interest in it unless grandpa or someone like that got them involved with it. And then they've got a little bit of interest, but they can't afford them now, and they can't
I
use them
think
as a daily driver.
that's a big problem, is just the cost of things. I mean, and that goes across all car stuff, because I think the spirit of being interested in cars has not gone away. I think that, I meet young people all the time who are interested in cars, where like you guys were talking about Mason with the Challenger, there's really not a shortage of people who want to do the hot rod hobby. They just sort of, a lot of them do it in a slightly different direction, or they do it with different cars. But across the board, I think everyone with almost every hobby right now is like, ooh, it costs a lot of money to do anything right now. I don't know what the solution is for that.
No,
How exactly did this whole nude car show thing come out, and what role did you have in this? Because I know people are going, okay, Randy, that's great. Can we get to the nude car thing? Go ahead. What is it?
Did we even talk about the nude car show while we were recording?
No,
Can
well,
we?
we mentioned.
No,
I don't remember, but we have
you
now,
mentioned
so it's too
it.
late.
I mentioned it. Okay. All right. So in the current issue, the summer issue of Car and Driver, our feature story is by a woman named Cherise, and it is about going to a nude car show. And right now you're like, what is a nude car show? My friends, that is exactly what it sounds like. It is a car show held by nudists, and everybody's not wearing clothes. So
Dude, David, what's his name in the stripper music?
You don't have to worry about people's belt buckles scratching the car.
Exactly.
Well, that's true.
Exactly. Nobody's gonna be like leaning over and like
Nobody wants to see that. No, nobody wants to see you leaning against my car like that. I'm sorry, that's just not going to work. I'm sorry.
Those aren't hand printed. Wait a minute.
Anyway, the way that came about, the way that story came about is that the writer contacted me and she said, have you heard about this? And I had heard about it because I'd seen the flyer for it. It had been on Facebook, and sort of, internally a bunch of people were like, what is that? And she said, I'd like to cover it for you. And so then there was this whole back and forth, because in email, I didn't want to say all right, but you got to go naked, right? I didn't want to there to be this paper trail of me telling some writer that they've got to take their clothes off to get a story. But then she said, you have to be naked to go to the show, and my husband and I are comfortable with that, and we will do it. And I was like, okay. And so then the next question was well, what are we going to do for artwork? Because we're not doing photos. And so we talked about it with the art team, and they're like, I think we could do some fun illustrations that don't show anything but get the pictures across, and so she went, and they went, and they had a really good time. She said everyone was really supportive and friendly and welcoming, and that it's not, I knew this about sort of nudist groups, although I've never done it myself, but they don't see it the way that we're kind of joking about it. To them, it's not this it's not this sleazy, sexy thing. It's about sort of kind of being free and in nature. It's, they call it like naturism and stuff like that, I mean, there are families who go and stuff. People have been doing this for 30 years. So, so she said that it was actually like very different than what she expected, and everybody was very kind, and that the cars were cool, and she met people all different, from all over, and that it was interesting because really the only hint that you had to somebody's personality was the car that they brought, because you couldn't tell anything about the clothes that they were wearing or anything like that because they weren't wearing. So she said she had a good time, expense report was a lot of sunscreen and bug spray, some towels. But I hope the readers get a kick out of it. We thought, this is a story nobody's written before, and that's so rare to have a story that nobody's written before about cars.
I can see the jokes. I'm coming up with the jokes in my head. I go, no, I'm not saying that.
Oh yeah, no.
I know. It was hard. It was definitely something where we had to talk about the approach that we were going to take, because initially the club was not eager to have us come and write a story, and I think they thought we were going to make fun of them because it would be so easy, and it is funny, right? Like, it's funny to talk about. Sure. But they're very sweet people, and they take it seriously, and that's important to them. So, we tried to approach it with a sense of humor, but also with some respect for them and what they were doing.
Sure.
That
Absolutely.
So I was just so impressed that, the writer did it, and she did a good job, and I thought she was very brave.
Very good. What is the name of the writer? Do you remember?
Charisse?
Yeah, Charisse. All right, yeah. Charisse DeWitt. All right. Give her a little publicity, little pub there. So, Elana, thanks for joining us on the podcast. Thank you out there for watching the episode and getting some fun car stories in the process. So for Hot Rod Bob, who of course, and along with Elana, different places in California, I am in beautiful downtown Puyallup, Washington, near Tacoma, and we'll see you next time on our Talking About Cars podcast. So long, everybody.
Take care.